Business Growth Talks podcast is created and hosted by Mark Hayward. In this show, we talk about how to grow a business in the growth stage. The growth stage is often marked by rapid developments, increased revenue, and an escalating customer base. In each episode, we talk to entrepreneurs and business owners who have grown businesses, and we cover topics like scaling processes, market expansion, financial management, human resource and talent development, and customer retention. If you are looking for actionable advice, tips, and techniques on how to grow, run and build your business, this is the podcast for you.
Today we have Elona Lopari, who is the founder and CEO of Life School, a renowned keynote speaker and a sales and marketing expert with a focus on business growth. Drawing from her extensive experience as a former Fortune 500 CEO, she has empowered over 100 companies to significantly increase their revenue. Her digital-focused approach, coupled with emotional intelligence, has garnered features in Business Insider, CEO Weekly, and the Business News. Elona is sought-after speaker and author, frequently addressing audiences on leadership, business strategy, and modernizing sales efforts. Thank you, Elona. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Thank you very much for being here today. We're going to be talking about a whole manner of things, including sales and your school and how you've been able to fill in HR functions and other areas. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to you today. The first question that I always ask my guests is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
Yeah, I love that question because I believe that everything starts with that, with the mind. To me, it means vision. It means knowing what you want to build, having that connected to your deeper purpose, being very clear around your values, your vision, your mission, and then working strategically, intentionally every day to get there.
So intentionally is a really interesting word, which I actually 100% agree with you. And some people get this paralysis analysis stage where they just analyze everything and they're not taking action. What have you found in the Life School that you developed, that whole idea of creating intention or action orientated business people?
Yeah, it comes with the powerful part of the education, right? If we don't know what we don't know, then obviously we're trying a lot of things and we're not taking intentional action, which could cause us to go to a million directions. Because especially business growth, you can go about growing your business many different channels, many different ways. It can get very overwhelming, but understanding how to have a blueprint and understanding how to work under certain pillars and getting yourself the education and empowering yourself with that clarity of your vision, your brand, your mission, really working together for both on both angles makes you take those strategic actions and those intentional actions that are going to keep you aligned towards the thing that you want to achieve and focused, which is another big pain point for tons of
Yes.
entrepreneurs. And it's going to make you work smart and not hard because, again, just like anything, there's other people in the world that have built things that you are looking to build or have gotten the results that you're looking to get. So again, it's just a matter of saving time and understanding how to make the right investments, which is why I always say that the best investment is always us because we're the main decision makers in our companies. And the more we know the things that we need to know, the more we can make informed, conscious decisions, getting us further faster towards the visions and missions that we're about to build.
Absolutely. And we're going to deep dive into your Life School. But before we go into that and go into your previous experience as well, tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
Yeah, I'll start with my origin. I am natively from Albania, moved to the US when I was only 15, broke free from a civil war that was happening currently in the country. My dad being the main initiator, trying to have his visa, all the ways that he figured out how to do that and keep his family safe and bring him over here. It was always his dream, the American dream. He always heard about America being the most developed country, but also being the country where there was a lot of opportunities which were missing there. So life started here at 15. I ventured into school and all of that, had studied English, and I just automatically became the parent because obviously I saw very early I was the oldest child. So I had to pretty much grow up very fast, translate for my siblings, problem solve in the family, get my first jobs, pretty much contribute my whatever I was making to the home because my parents didn't speak the language. They were obviously working very hard, a couple of jobs. That experience early on just taught me how to problem solve, which is now I see it's a great gift and skill, especially in entrepreneurship, where really, literally our job description is a problem solver. And then I also pursued the American dream. One of the things that my dad instilled in me when I first came here was we got to be successful. There's a lot of opportunities here and achievement. I was praised for achievement very early on. So I followed that blueprint. I got my bachelor's and then climbed the corporate ladder. I happened to be for a Fortune 500 company that was in growth mode at that time. So I just kept getting promoted every couple of years, always learning, growing, and being an entrepreneur right under a company, which was a corporation, which at that time I didn't know that. And my catalyst to entrepreneurship was where the company was acquired by another company and the culture turned very profit driven. And I no longer saw, obviously, a focus on growth for the people that were there. So I just read the silver lining. And at that time, I also had some intuition coming towards my way through an inner voice that I was supposed to change trajectory. Obviously, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but through just learning and growing, aligning myself with people in the world and learning and growing through podcasting, which is why I love the channel of podcasting because that opened up my mind to a whole new world. I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I just started to tap my feet into entrepreneurship and then started offering something that I was familiar with, which was executive coaching for women leaders, because I actually had moved all the way to the C suite at that point. So I had seen all the phases and stages of growing a company. And my strength was leadership because one of the things that I did really was developing top talent and high engagement scores, whether it was customer engagement scores or team engagement scores. So that's what I did is I built my business slowly. I still was working. And then when I felt comfortable enough to make the leap and realize that, oh my gosh, this is amazing because for an overachiever like me, when you give me no ceiling and limits, it's almost like that's my playground. And
Mm,
entrepreneurship is that where there's no ceiling. I can dream a big vision. I can explore myself every day. I can contribute beyond myself with other people. So to me, it just connected a lot of different important values or common points that I cared about. And I just, yeah. And ever since I've been doing this, which is now 5 years, I've never looked back. And I just look at my transformation and
mm,
it's amazing
mm.
to understand. And I almost go back and forth to say that I was born an entrepreneur because I realized that I am very entrepreneurial, even in the way that I think
Okay.
and the resource.
Okay, we've covered a lot of areas which we're going to talk about in this conversation. So things like your experience at Walgreens, setting up the business, entrepreneurship, how you develop that. We're going to cover all of that in this episode. But thank you for giving me that summary. I just want to touch on the Albanian heritage that you have. When you came over and you were new to America, and it was challenging, maybe because your English might not have been perfect. It might have been a little bit, and move into a country where you're immersed in the American culture. How have you kept your Albanian culture through the years and managed to navigate that in America and all of the American dream? How have you managed to keep your Albanian culture?
Yeah, I think the besides the language, the hardest challenge I had is to fit in, right? It was a new country. I was a teenager, pretty much, right? And we all know that stage and phase is very, uncertain and hard.
Mm,
So those were my beginning challenges. But with the language, I pretty much adapted very fast because I guess I was at that age as well that I was able to just learn it very fast. And I had already known another language, so that usually helps to
mm,
learn like more languages.
yeah,
So that kind of was a faster transition. But I also, when you have no choice, I realized that you do what you got to do. And even if I spoke with an accent, who cares? I had to do the things that I wanted to do. I was always very goal oriented, though, wherever, even at that age, I always knew what I wanted and nothing's going to stop me. I don't care how I spoke, I was going to do it. And especially because at that point it was for the survival of my family. So that kind of responsibility made me overcome some of the insecurities or my own things that I had with the language that early on. But to answer your question, how do we keep the culture alive? Through my family. I have my little close family here, no one else really. So I think that really worked because we always lived together, like close to each other. And we became very close in that aspect. We would always honor, speak the language as much as we could, or we would just watch shows that are Albanian. We would try to surround ourselves with that piece and be ingrained in the Albanian communities, which are really developed in the US as well. So I think just a little bit of that
Mm,
still
mm, mm.
kept me very still connected to my culture, but still growing and embracing the diversity that New York had to offer me, which is something I really appreciate and value today. Um,
And you've said that a couple of times you used the word responsibility of being a figure in your family to build that. So how has that affected you through your career, that idea of having responsibilities of your family? Has that been a positive effect on you, or has it been tough at certain stages?
The positive effect is that obviously I'm accountable, loyal, I do what I say I will do, which helped me a lot with my self-esteem. So personally, it
Mm,
really helped me with my self-esteem because I've always problem solved so early. So I self-relied on a lot of my independence and my own self to be resourceful. So I always knew like I will always figure something out. Like I always have a solution. I no matter what, wherever I go. Also because my parents survived and also recreated their life from the beginning, that were a strong role model for me, that I'm like, what is my thing? Even if I fail, whatever, I'll get back up, I'll learn from it, and I'll just keep moving because I'm just so strongly directed towards the things that I want to do, and I have an inner knowing sense of this is what I want to do. But the obviously the side effect was that I received my worth and my value from achieving and doing,
mm,
right? So my inner journey has been to heal some of those patterns of why do I always need to work to be worth something or to get the love of the people that I care about and love. It drove me to burnout. It drove me to hustle. It drove me to hurting my health at times, anxiety, all these other things that have happened, and also drove me to have some challenges with my close relationships because or workaholism was the thing that, I identified with, I guess, before. The responsible part, this was the biggest side effect for me, that I always thought that I always needed to do something and work on something to be worth something.
mm. And would you say you're a workaholic now?
I have definitely improved my practices. I have done a lot of inner work and personal development where I could say that now I have aligned some of the other practices of being in the present moment, being more intentional, allowing myself time and space to self care, allowing myself time and space to do the things that light me up, but also have some healthy balance, even though obviously it's not perfect every day, but at least I'm very aware that it is important to me. And this is the biggest lesson that I have to learn, to do more, to be more in the being, because I can go
Yeah.
into a default and just do all day, every day. It's been a journey. It's been a journey, but I'm now aware and conscious, and I try to stay. I have my practices that I rely on to keep me grounded when I want to go into those default modes or fear driven thoughts, speaking of mindset,
Right.
or lack, or because that's usually where all of that comes from anyway. So yeah, that's been my experience.
Yeah. Thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate that. So you worked 13 years in Walgreens. How did you, first of all, get the job, and how did you develop in that role for 13 years?
Yeah, my college career office had a posting. My first position was a trainee, management training, because my degree was in business management and finance. So that was my first role, and then they have obviously a solid structure in the way that you can move up within the company. And then I got promoted to um, assistant manager, then a store manager, then a community leader, then a district manager. So I just kept growing within the company. I did HR also for many years with them as well. So I was lucky and blessed to be able to tap into different positions because also the region I was working under was in growth mode. So they were always looking for individuals that were good talent, they would perform, and obviously they had the qualities that they were looking for. So the company promoted from within. So that's why I was able to climb up that ladder.
Amazing. And so what made you set up the life school in 2019?
Yeah, that was through just my life experience, personal, professional, that moment where I was looking for the name of my company, just meditating on it, going back and forth to just come up with something that was meaningful to me. And it came up to me through a meditation session and a download or something like a new idea or an insight that entrepreneurship is just like school, right? Just like life school. You fall, you get back up. Every day you're a student. There's no such thing as you learn something and then now you can rest and you're like, okay, you got your degree and that's it. You got to learn new skills that obviously are not really taught in traditional institutions. So it just came to me that every day we're a life student and every day we're learning and growing. And when it comes to growing a company that is purpose driven and you align purpose with profit, you can grow it as big as you'd like because it's going to be the thing that obviously you is your purpose and mission, which can be left as a legacy. So there is no stop to the growing and the learning. So that's why I came up with the life school. And I've also been a very holistic person. I never looked at one area of life to be like, this is the thing. To me, personal growth is very closely correlated to professional. So I wanted a name that wasn't just business, but it was more like open to just life itself. So that's how I came up with that.
And how was that transition into entrepreneurship, starting your own business? How did that go from having the rigid structure of a corporate career into the first day and it's your business and you've got to find clients, you've got to build the business, which is a slightly different skill set? How was the transition for you?
Yeah, now I can predict the phases and stages, but I had new entrepreneurial energy, meaning that very optimistic, positive. The world was when I was always sure I was going to help everyone and I was going to do really create meaningful change. And I was free. I felt free. I felt
Mm,
free to
mm,
make the decisions that I wanted. I didn't have to show up somewhere 9 to 5. So those are the beginning high moments, like the
mm,
honeymoon
mm.
phase of
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. Those are the beginning. And then obviously my first clients came from my warm networks, people that already knew and trust me already. So I was helping a few of my beginning clients and then just again fell in love with the fact that I can be free and independent and I can focus on things that really matter to me and I can align my talent and my gifts towards the thing that I really felt was important, which has always been business and leadership. I've just
Mm,
evolved over the years where I add more of the personal, spiritual side as well to it because obviously I've learned how important this stuff is.
yeah.
Years ago, I was completely reliant on just the traditional things that I had learned with as far as leadership and business building. Yeah, I think those were the beginning. The hardest problem was always I would go into the fear part where the first 2 years were the hardest. I remember because it's almost like you transition into a new identity. I every time obviously I didn't get the things that I wanted or I was working on things that didn't give me the results that I should have had at that moment in time. I would revert back to safety and I'm like in my mind if I could just go back to safety. There's a lot of back and forth mindset wise to just make me go to where the thing that was so familiar to me because this was just too new and too uncertain. So it was a mix of feelings. I think I've gone through all the roller coaster.
Yeah. In 5 years, you probably have gone through the roller coaster of emotions of being an entrepreneur. But what I wanted to know was, have you ever put an application in for another job in the 5 years that you've been running the life school?
No, because
You've never taken that step, as in, yeah, go on, I'll let you carry on.
no, I've never taken that. Definitely have thought of it in moments of quiet revenue or feast and famine, especially at the beginning before obviously I had built what I've built now. But to me, it was almost like even the thought before starting my business to go back and just take my skills and do the same thing with
Mm,
another
mm,
company just felt like just I wasn't aligned with it. Like my intuition was like, nope, no. And at that point, I had learned how to listen to my inner guidance. So it was just, nope, been there, done that, not for you. So the same thing with the job. When I would entertain it for the safety piece of the income, especially because why would I
mm.
ignore that? Obviously, I want to do this and be free and have all the freedoms. I would get the same answer. Yeah, I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
So that
yeah. Once you've left, I worked for corporate for 14 years, and now I've left. I don't think I could go back to that experience again. You've talked about it having a purpose-driven business, and that's what the life school is all about. And you've talked about your intuition and listening to your inner voice. How do you help clients create purpose-driven businesses?
Yeah. So it's all about life experience, personal and professional, all the skills they've gained, all the challenges they have to overcome, all the pain they've overcome in their lives, all the wins, all the talents, all the things that they've already discovered, all the things that light them up. Pretty much helping them package that into their own business. Because when a business comes from that authentic place and that type of journey, then it's something that obviously is calling you for a reason. And there's a reason why all those things happen to us, because my first book was connecting the vision backwards. And I really feel like that to discover the thing that we want to do in the present moment, we do have to look back at our past, because it gives us a lot of great insight around the steps that we've taken, the falls, the things that we have gained, and nothing is ever wasted in life. And all of that is really built up. Why not utilize our entire journey to build a business
Mm,
that's meaningful towards us and offer a service? I focus on service businesses because I love the
yes.
service aspect, and create something that obviously you are the best person to be able to now support other people and do more good in the world with that. And there's a reason why that pain came to you, or that the passion came to you, and now you're using it to in service towards others, and there's no limit to that, because obviously you could scale that impact, and then obviously align the profit piece, which is such a big pain point for a lot of businesses, the cash flow and the revenue generations. So to me, it's just yeah, piecing a lot of these things together when people talk about things in the way they do, or when they in our sessions and in the work that I do, I'll ask very intentional questions to get into the depth of stuff, because the depth is really the most important piece. Because if we're going to be in the journey of entrepreneurship, just like school, it's ups and downs, you might as well do something that's really meaningful to you and it's authentic to you. What's the point of building something that's going to fade tomorrow? It's just
Mm,
not worth
mm,
it to go through the
mm,
challenges of the journeys.
mm.
Definitely going
Yeah.
to serve you so that you can learn and grow. And plus, I believe that we have a life path and a specific reason why we're here, and our job is to raise our awareness so that we can connect those dots and then take inspired action to keep us aligned with the thing that we're really meant to do here on earth.
Yeah.
So that's
So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm just interested because when I was doing research on you, you said particularly that you work with people with when it comes to marketing and sales. So what strategies you've talking about a very holistic view of your business and how you help your clients. Let's just drill in a little bit on the business side for now, talking about how do you design help people with marketing and sales when these clients are looking to grow.
yeah. Yeah, those are the pillars I work under, which is branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team, because I've seen that those are the most important pillar, just like a home, to build a sustainable business that is also self-led and independent, which can be left as a legacy, exited from, or utilized as a philanthropy channel for a lot of the CEOs and the founders. So for marketing, we clarify the market. Who is the
Right.
market? Who are you going after? What is your business model? And then obviously once we have that information, then we can draw out the marketing channels, whether they're organic or paid. I work under both, because why not? There's obviously, when you're at scale, you already have the funds. So understanding how to utilize paid marketing is also smart and important. Based on that, I work with my clients to identify the marketing channels, and then I help them craft their prospect journeys and their client journeys to be able to help people go through that, so that obviously at the sales aspect, people can really close and deliver those transformations through their services. So I pretty much still in business, I take a holistic approach. I'm the operations, right? I'm the person that connects
Right.
it all for them. And then the operations is working and streamlined. And then once you have the right systems, SOPs in order, and your operations is efficient and productive, then maybe you want to think about growing into a new market or expanding the current market that you have. And then I also work under the pillars of team, because just like anything, the only way to scale is through leadership and getting other people aligned with you. So depending on where the company is, I'll help them streamline their positions that they're looking to hire, and I'll help them go through the entire process of onboarding people, training them, and then succession planning to ensure they're keeping their top talent and
Yeah.
scaling and growing current markets and new markets.
Yeah. So you talked about operations and it's interesting you say that because systems, processes, getting those things embedded into companies often are some of the challenges for earlier earlier stage businesses, how do you, when you're looking at a new client, how do you look at their operations and go in and make suggestions? Because sometimes people have been running their business for a while and you're coming in and basically saying you need to streamline this, you need to adjust this, you need to change this, hire this person, maybe fire this person. How do your clients feel when you come in and you do the analysis stage of their relationship with you?
Yeah, it's always a collaboration, right? It's in a partnership. So it's always that. And what I do is help them ask those intentional questions based on what their gaps are, right? Because there's always gaps. So once we identify what their gaps are and what their main pain points are, I always go start with what they've built thus far and where they would like to be. So once we have identified that gap or the bridge, then I offer my insight around the stage of growth that they're in to focus on the right priorities to give them the ROI that they're looking for, but also build their bigger brand. Because there's always two activities happening in business at all times. You're always working towards the brand and the vision and the mission that you have for the future, but also you got to be intentional with the activities that you're focusing on today and making the right decisions and solving the right problem, moving you further faster towards that and generating cash flow and consistent income, which is a big pain point. So my gift is to connect both of those things for people
Mm,
and then offer insight based on my experience of what are some of those gaps and what are some of those things that they should be focusing or they could be focusing on. And then at the end of the day, it's always a decision of the business owner or the CEO. That's why I offer both things, whether it's done with you, you would like to take that information, implement it for yourself and your team, or done for you, where obviously I already have put my process into a done for you service where I know exactly what are the things to do operationally to get the company to that level. So that's my approach. That's how I deal with it. But to me, it's always about collaborating and opening up the space to ask intentional questions. And I also challenge the CEOs and the clients that come towards me because a lot of times we want to build something or we want to do it for the wrong reason. And when I get deeper into their whys, they also could
mm.
see that it's not really what they wanted in the first place. So saving them a lot of heartache, energy, tension, time away, focusing the wrong thing by just going in and asking really deep questions to really clarify that's the direction that you want to go into. And
You
those
make a really good point. You make a really good point because some business owners think they want to build an empire and build multiple revenue streams and hit the revenue targets, the profitability targets, and actually they're unaware that actually maybe lifestyle is more important to them than actually driving that business to a certain level. What questions, so you said ask intentional questions, what are the types of questions you ask that really delves into understanding what their mission is, what their values are, what they want to achieve? How do you do that?
Yeah, I always help them connect the past, the present, and the future of what they want to build. And I'll ask them questions around what's important to them and why is it important to them to be able to build or maybe achieve a certain result. Because usually the conversation always is around what is it that they're trying to accomplish. Obviously, what is the main pain point or the problem they're trying to solve. That's usually the beginning, and then obviously, they see what they actually need, and then they get their awareness and the education, and then they along the journey, they can make more conscious choices because usually, unless when you are aware, you're not making a conscious choice. You're just making a choice around your ego or comparison or what's out there already, or it looks good that I can build a successful company, but that might not be the thing that they want. And then the other one is personal life, right? What is important to them? And what phase of life are they in? Is travel important to
Mm,
them? Are they still parenting their kids? What are the phases and stages? What are the hobbies that they're after and all of that? So to me, aligning personal life is really important because just like you said, what's the point of just growing a business or building a company that is really not a good fit for what you want to do in life overall anyway, just
yeah.
because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I ask a lot of those questions. What does good look like to you? What would be a day in your life, an ideal day in your life? What would you want to do with your time? Because at the end of the day, That's the thing with business. You can be a slave to your business, or you can, again, understand how to intentionally build an independent business where you are removing yourself away from the business eventually, or at least setting yourself up so that you have a choice to do
Yeah.
if you like to do. Yeah, I look at those are like usually the intentional questions that I ask and the spaces that I hold. And then through working with my clients, obviously you get more clarity along the journey, you get to know people better and all of that. And then information just comes up, and then you can make a more conscious choice or decision around what could be the next problem that we're solving, but always
Mhm.
keeping that the focus that they have very much like a compass, so that when we're making decisions about the everyday implementation of things, it's back against that.
What's your typical sized company that you work with? Or preferred? If it's not typical, what's your preferred?
Yeah, it's 0 to 10 million. It's my gap in the service space. So yeah, 0 to 10 million in revenue. And then usually obviously 0 to 1, it's a startup. So they're gonna need to implement a lot of those different pieces. And then usually 1 to 1 million is more on the scale side. They need the systems implemented, then you start hiring their people, structuring out the company and all of that.
So you work primarily with service-based industries. First of all, why do you target mainly service-based industries?
First of all, because I am a service-based business, I have one. So I like to stay in integrity with what I've built from my experience. The company I worked for before, which was a corporation, was also service-based mixed with products. But a lot of my success was still in the service-based. Plus, I see a big gap with service-based businesses when they look into scale, right? Because it is the service takes more time, or it might be the owner that's offering the service. So I do look at those opportunities to do that. And then lastly, it's because it's service towards others. And usually, not that products don't create a transformation, but a service creates a transformation in other people's lives. And I like the service aspect.
Have you worked with clients that are looking to sell their business?
Yes, I have worked with, so that's the work that I do. I help them build an independent company. And then in my company, I help them exit if they like to as well.
So tell me a case study, an example of a client that you've worked with that have grown intentionally to the point where they have been able to sell. And importantly, the second question of that is, were they happy after they sold the business?
Yeah. So it was a construction company actually. They were doing 3 million in revenue. I worked with them and we got the company to 7 million. We worked together for 2 years. And then once the company was at that level, the personal circumstances changed. The person was going through a divorce, and they were no longer aligning with the company that they were building. And they pretty much had done a lot of inner work, spiritual work. So they just wanted to do more traveling and exploring that side of themselves, which they didn't get to because they were just raising kids and being in a long-term relationship and marriage for so long. And they just wanted to travel the world. So they sold their company, and that's what they're doing. They obviously have since started another business where they can do it more globally and internationally. But the business they had was more traditional business that kept them tied to their locations that they had in the New York State boroughs. Yeah, in that particular case study, that's what the CEO decided to do with the the
And
sale.
and were they happy? Because often I hear people that sell their first business. First of all, there's always an issue with selling your first business because you don't know what you don't know, but obviously you're there to support them, to help them along that process. But equally, do they ever regret the selling of the business? Or in your case, are you, with your holistic approach, gearing them forward that they don't have the regret of selling that business?
Yeah, even in that case, I would do I would do my investigative deep question work to ensure that selling the business is the right decision, because that could be
Mm,
another unconscious decision that is just made because you're frustrated, and obviously they might not have all the operational things in place, because if your company's operating and you don't have those stressors that might stress
mm,
you because there's
mm,
opportunities inside the company, maybe selling
mm,
it is not the right thing. That's why I
mm.
like it's almost like the babies that I help grow, and then we make a conscious decision whether they go to college or not or whatever. So to me, I look at it more of in that kind of retrospect. But this particular person was very happy with the decision. Again, nowadays people want location freedom. So they were very
Yeah.
happy. But it's usually three things that happen. Either people get into another business or they align with other projects that are more soul passion projects that they care about, or they do travel. Those are usually
Mm.
three main journeys that people go on. I think people that are regretful of the decision to make the exit have done it obviously for the wrong reason. And they might have those feelings of regret and trying to go back and start the same thing or something new, or they have a lot of inner work to do as if I always need to be working or doing something. So once you have people with that personal stuff, that kind of stuff heals, and then they can make a better decision for themselves. But it's very rare that people just regret it and they just want to go back to their old lifestyle, especially if their businesses were causing them lots of headaches before.
Yeah. What's typically the sort of percentage wise of the what amount of business focused work versus personal development focused? I know every client is different and needs slightly different things, but do you find that you're in most cases 50% on the personal work and 50% on the business, or is it typically more business, or is it typically more personal development stuff that you work with people with?
Yeah, I would say 70-30. 70% is heavy focus in the business and the leadership aspect, and then 30% is more of the personal. Obviously, there's personalization. There could be clients that need more of the personal stuff to get them to implement because it's blocking them from the actual
Mm,
implementation. And obviously, got
mm,
to deal with that and make sure that we're problem solving for the root causes. But I would say 70-30 is a good percent
yeah.
of what I've seen pattern wise.
And how has the digital landscape affected your clients when they're looking to grow and scale?
We had a boom, right, in the digital landscape for many years ago. Now, obviously, we're living and operating in different economic times where it's definitely
Mm,
challenging. The world is changing fast. There's a lot of economy is obviously not helping. So a lot of my clients are finding ways, and I'm working with them to find ways to do things hybrid, right? So if you have an online service, let's figure out ways to also do it locally as well, and within the regions and the areas that they're working with, because people are still craving the personal stuff, and plus we know how much more of a way you build a relationship when people see you face to face. That's why traditional businesses, have been local for all these years. And in the online environment, there's a few other challenges with that, where it's still
yeah.
a virtual environment and it takes a little longer to do some of these things. So it's still strong for sure, but I have seen people moving more into a hybrid, including myself, because I've been missing some of the live
Mm,
interaction,
mm.
especially for my speaking side of the business. So yeah, I would say a hybrid environment is where I see the things trending.
The trajectory, absolutely. So what about the speaking? So why did you branch into public speaking as well as running a very busy business? And I'm sure you said about your family, staying closely connected with your family. What made you start to want to do speaking engagements?
Yeah, I always listen to channels that make sense to me and obviously make me feel happy about the work I'm doing. And speaking obviously helps me grow my business, because when you have a service, you are automatically a speaker, because how else are you building trust with people unless you're sharing
Yeah.
it through voice or writing it? So that's kind of how my journey started with writing my books. I spoke my books into transcription. That's the right
Yeah.
word to say. Because I was always a speaker and a facilitator, even for the company I worked for, and being in leadership positions. Main job function is sharing the vision and speaking. And so that was my most natural skill, I guess, I had built over the years. So to me, sharing my message with people, whether it's through this type of channel or social media or in a room full of people, it just feels like natural, like normal, like my very
Mm,
familiar environment for me. So I
mm,
just put that thing back to my brand, and I positioned myself as a speaker, and I started getting my speaking engagements and all of that. And now I do it professionally, obviously. But to me, it's not separate from the business, because
mm.
that's how people build trust, and that's how I add value, by just sharing what I know with people. So it's really one thing to me, and I've written many books, and I'm always writing a book. I'm speaking a book into writing, I always say,
Right.
because I
Right.
use my tools to transcribe and all of that. But yeah, I think they're legacy products. When you get to share a message in the room and from one to many, and you get to create that impact at that scale. It just fills me up. It fulfills me.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
try to pay attention to things that I care about and that make me happy without having to do the thing that I think I should do to grow my
Yeah.
business. I just pay attention to that light and I follow it. That's how speaking has come about for me and
S-
authorship.
So just looping back on your intuition, because you've said about purpose-driven businesses and so how have you developed that ability to have a greater level of intuition drive in your life rather than data, KPIs, operations? How personally for you have you developed that intuition?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I'm naturally a left brain person, right? I speak in my mind is actually the strongest out of the triangle, mind, body, spirit. I've always led with that, but obviously through challenges, through understanding that, through a lot of anxiety, through a lot of burnout, through a lot of feeling unfulfilled, even though I was just always chasing and achieving, and always chasing and achieving, and all the external stuff never filled me up on the inside because that was my highlight moment sitting in that C suite and achieving the success and the American dream. And inside of me, I felt so unhappy. So then I
Mm,
started looking for more. I'm like, wait, I was lied to. This is not what I thought I would just live happily ever after. And I already did it. I made it. So I just saw that wasn't it. So I'm like, okay, wait, what's more? So I went in that journey of self discovery and finding tools to be able to do that. But I think the main one is meditation for me. I started doing it, and obviously now it's a practice, and I'm always looking into more modalities to be able to do that. But just quieting the mind, which is my strongest asset in business, but also my biggest
mm,
challenge in life because we all know monkey mind, when you
mm, mm.
operate from that one capacity, you're not tapping into the heart and the intuition and the spirit side. Meditation has been my go to method of choice and journaling
Mm.
because I like to write and used to write poems in middle school, so I like to write poems as well. So I just connect some of the things I really like to do in my creative side, which I have discovered. And I just use those tools to be able to do. But those have been my main two channels to be able to quiet this mind so that I can listen to the wisdom that's sitting underneath me or inside of me, I should say. But yeah, those have been my main go-to channels to be able to hone
Okay.
in to my intuition more.
What sort of risk appetite would you say you have?
Risk appetite.
Yeah,
You
what
mean
like what
uh,
do you take chances? Do you take risk on and embrace it, or are you less risk averse and like stability and building something? Like like when you're talking about it, could be in your personal life, it could be in your business life, it could be in investing, whatever that what you can talk to any of those or any other that you think of. But I'm just interested what like how you would describe your risk appetite.
okay. Thanks for explaining that. So over time, my risk appetite has gotten into more variety. I started being very safe before I had done a lot of the personal development journey that I've been on for all these years. Now it's more intuitive to me. I don't look at it as risk. To me, it's if I feel it, if I see it, because my intuition comes to me through vision and hearing. So if I have my methods and I get the insight to do something, even though it's scary, it's uncertain, I'll almost will obey. And I don't care. I'll take the action because usually on the other side, I always find something amazing. And then I also, even if it was a mistake, I just learn from it and I just gain more life experience. To me, life experience is the most valuable thing, which is why even my life school is built on experiences of humans,
Mm,
of people, because that's really all we have at the end of the day, just our journey,
mm,
our life experience, and just working our awareness to just connect more of that so we can share it with others. So I guess now I've become very risk averse. I don't even recognize myself in the way that I even make my decisions because they're very God driven now. And I'm very, yeah, intuitive. I'll know who's the right person to connect with or what is the right investment to make or any of that. And I don't make any important life decisions unless I go within, honestly. And
okay.
I don't rush.
So
I'm not in a rush. I don't chase anymore. I am patient. I understand there's also timing in play. So I try to just, If I'm not sure, I'll sit with it. I have no rush to go fast and in fury, unless obviously my intuition came in and I'm like, okay, I gotta move on that and I'll do it. But that's how I make my decisions now, and the risk adversity.
What do you still want to achieve?
I have a long journey ahead, building my company to independent level where that's going to operate on its own. And then my next journey is going to be more on the investor side, where I'm now part of other companies and I have companies under my portfolio. So that's more in the business world, but I'm also very interested in the spiritual world, utilizing business and leadership and helping people discover some of their purposes and kind of why they're here on earth. So I have a few missions that collide, I find, but I'm always interested in growing. I never stop because to me, if you stop, you're not evolving. So every day it's a new day. I try to stay aware, learn, grow, and go through those actions that I think are going to move me forward faster towards the thing that obviously I want. And I watch the timing of the thing. But to me nowadays, it's more important to live in joy and gratitude and all the things that are such important pieces and really have the right people around me than the other things that I used to value years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I see.
Wonderful. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. First question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
To start my own business.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Life is a journey. There's no
And just expand on that, because you said at the start you're very goal orientated. It sounded like you were setting goals for your clients and where they want to achieve. But that's that idea of life is a journey, not a destination, is something I think is so important in entrepreneurship, that it's not I've got to earn this much or have this net worth or grow this business, but actually it's enjoying the journey, enjoying the day, every day that you're doing something that really lights you up or fills you up, however you want to phrase it. How do you balance that act of telling people they need to achieve goals, and goals, I agree, are really important, but versus they've got to enjoy every day because they're doing it?
Yeah, I love that you asked that because my past version of me, I would be very rigid, structured around goals, and my now version of me understands that there's so much more to life. So it's a complementary mix between both, where obviously it's good to have intention. That's why I talked about intention at the beginning and taking
Sure.
inspired action. So intentional goals, I resonate with mostly nowadays. So yeah, that's combining my past and my kind of where I am now, but life is a journey, and there is no destination because obviously we will never realize our fullest potential ever. Every day there's a chance to learn and grow. It will all be worth it if you're working on things that matter to you, or if you live life consciously based on what you would like to have and how to be. Because that's another big challenge for me and a lot of people for sure, because we are spiritual beings. We're not machines and doing all the time. So
Mm,
complementary between what I've learned, what my past version was, and where I am now. I still believe, obviously, that if you are strongly pulled towards something, that might somebody might call it a goal. I have that also, all those all the time, and they're usually big things. So I have to work
mm,
backwards. So it's still you can call it a goal, you can call it an inspired action, you can call it an
yeah,
insight, you can call it a
yeah.
download, but those are big goals. And to me, sometimes I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that opening up myself get all this insight, which is connected to me. But those are massive goals. And sometimes those are not goals that you just achieve today and tomorrow, and they just become a journey until you
Mm,
actually
mm,
get to that. So I've just seen a combo between both over my
yeah,
experience.
amazing. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
I would say my mentors that I've always aligned myself with. My first mentor, my mentor when I was working for the corporate company I was working for, I had a very good mentor that seen in me what I didn't see in myself and gave me the gift of leadership and seeing that inside of me, which obviously then I could utilize and lean more on and learn more and grow from it. And he always told me that you're very good with people, and always remember that when I didn't see it for myself. So that was the my first mentor, which obviously you always remember your first.
Yes, yes.
So,
Amazing. Tell me about a regret that you have.
hmm. The regret I have is for not listening to myself earlier in my life or my inner guidance because it was always there. I just pushed it away or distracted myself or avoided. I did a lot of avoidance in my life. So that would be the only regret. Like I wish I could really trust what I was picking up from my inner guidance early on.
So your inner voice, we're gonna get a little bit like psychological on this. Is your inner voice a person? Your mother, your father, your uncle, your grandfather, whatever? Or is it a combination of multiple people? Or do you believe that inner voice is something that is meaningful only to you?
Good question. So it comes to people differently. For me, it comes as my own voice, my own insight, where it's right in my ear and it's telling me like this is the next thing to do, or this is the next insight to listen to. And over time, I've cleared it out, obviously, because sometimes it could be fear or the mind. But now I have a lot of great clarity with it. So to me, it shows up as my own voice. To other
Right.
people,
Okay.
show up differently.
Yeah. What are you most proud of?
Hmm. Just the fact that every day I try to grow and contribute towards others, and I live a life in integrity with my values and my truth.
Why was that a hard question to answer?
Because I had to think back of how I would answer it now and not years ago, where before I did a lot of my healing, I would say that I would be proud of what my parents thought of me. But because I've already healed a lot of that, now it's I'm proud of me. It's almost changed over time. And thank you for asking that because
No, it was just interesting. Every question you've answered that I've asked you, you've answered naturally, authentically, and just very honestly. And I really appreciate that in this whole episode. It was very interesting. You paused, you thought, and then you gave me an answer. So it was fascinating to see you go through that process almost in your head before you answer the question.
yeah, because being proud of me, especially the love that maybe I never received growing up, has been the hardest part of the journey for me.
Mm,
So
mm.
you just opened up that trigger. So I had to go within and get that answer process before I answered. So I think
Yeah, that's absolutely fun. That's why we've got an hour doing this conversation. We can definitely think about things, and I appreciate that. This is probably something you ask a lot of your clients, but what would you say your why is now? What's your why?
living a life in alignment with my soul's path. And every day I try to, be aware and conscious around that piece.
So tell me about one. You don't have to go into a full example, but tell me about a day where that's been a struggle, where you've maybe made choices in that day which you felt are not aligned to your inner self. How do you approach those days or those moments, let's say?
Yeah, I usually get conflicts, whether they're internally or external circumstances that happen, which are negative, that kind of just give me that insight that I'm not in the right direction. So it would come to just me feeling in conflict and taking me down to some of my emotions of I'm doing something because I think I need to and should do it rather than because I want to do it. So I'm always in the process of cleaning that up. So it comes to
Mm,
me as a feeling conflict first. Or I would just get outside circumstances when I just don't pay attention to it because I'm just in my own things that happen on the outside, which are negative, and I try to pay attention to that as well and listen to those signs. So that's how it shows up for me where I'm in conflict, whether it's
right.
internally or with things that I'm just pushing to do for the wrong reason because I know
Mm,
that this will be the thing to get me the next thing. And usually the more aware I become around that, the less of that I'm doing and without having to repair the pain of making the
mm,
wrong decisions because I was doing it
right,
out of fear. So
yeah,
that's how I'm able to gauge it now, whether it's
amazing. What does legacy mean to you?
impact towards other humans, the positive impact that you have towards others. To me, in my funeral, so to speak, I would see the people that maybe I just had a little touch of impact or that I maybe was able to support or help or inspire, or I never want to do any bad things in the world. It's only in service and contribution. So legacy to me means just impact. Have I lived a life in alignment with kind of who I am? And through that process, did I do good with others? And
Mm,
did I
mm,
was I kind, and was I compassionate, and was I always able to support other people while I support myself? So
yeah.
that's what legacy means to me now.
Amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing?
My website will be the best hub. It's at elonaloparicoaching.com, and they'll find some free resources on there if they resonate with anything I said. And yeah, that's where we can further connect beyond this conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. I feel on this show sometimes we are very strategic and tactical about how to achieve in business. And it's been really refreshing and really interesting speaking to you where those things are important. Obviously, we've got to be able to grow the business, but actually bring in a bit more of a holistic aspect of business and entrepreneurship is incredibly important. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate you being on my show.
Likewise, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Business Growth Talks. This podcast is released every Monday, so don't miss an episode by subscribing to all podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Have a great day.